What's up, everybody? Welcome into this Wednesday edition of Bulls Latest. I'm your host, Matt Johnson here. Before we kick things off today, guys, I want to thank Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. I've got a lot to get to today with you guys. But first, guys, scan that QR code at the top of the page there. Take advantage of $75 in bonus entries after playing just your first $5 today. All you have to do is scan that QR code to get started today, guys. It's right up in the corner there. Scan that and get in on all the great NBA action ahead the rest of this week and the rest of the season, guys. The stretch run is here. A lot of great markets to go in on Underdog Fantasy when it comes to the NBA there. Wanted to start with Mark Cuban today, guys. And the reason I bring up Mark Cuban, he is very pro-tanking. The former majority owner of the Dallas Mavericks says the fan experience is chief among the reasons the NBA should, quote-unquote, embrace tanking here. I honestly, I'm kind of in the same ballpark as Mark Cuban, guys. I think that the NBA should embrace it and let it be a part of the game. I know that in yesterday's episode got into a ton of why the league is trying to guard against tanking. Mark Cuban would go on to say the NBA has been misguided, thinking that their fans want to see their teams compete every night with a chance to win. Mark Cuban believes it's never been that way. The experience for fans is what he points to the most in his comments, saying that what fans care about are their is their team's record, and what they want in that is hope. I mean, I think that when you look at an organization that's not necessarily a tops in the NBA, hope will get better and have a chance to compete for the playoffs and then maybe a ring. And I think that's all NBA fans want is a shot at it, The one way to get closer to that is via the draft, via trades, and then cap room. You have a better chance of improving via all three of those when you tank here, guys. And I think this is something as we look at and cover the Chicago Bulls here, as I continue to do these shows for you guys. The Bulls are in a position the rest of the way, and the writing is on the wall as a Bulls fan. You are looking at an opportunity to tank, guys. You want to get one of those top spots in the draft, and the Bulls haven't been in this situation for a long, long time because they certainly have kind of put themselves in that middle ground for a lot of years here. And I think that now, after offloading pretty much every valuable asset that this team had at the deadline, and it was the right move, guys. I believe that this was the right move for the Bulls. But when you look at the connection of the Chicago Bulls into what Mark Cuban has said here, there's a lot of teams in this boat, guys. It does make sense in terms of the points that he makes. Now, you can argue both ways, obviously. We got a lot of information in yesterday's show in regards to, why tanking should be abolished and why it could be better for our league. But at the same time, if you're a fan of a team that's kind of struggling to get going and struggling to kind of, take a plunge into the top of their conference, I think that you should embrace the tanking element of the game. It's been that way for a long, long time, and fans have certainly, learned how to embrace it, especially the organizations in sports that have struggled to have constant success, guys. This has been something that's been, in play here for a long, long time, and Mark Cuban was just kind of bringing those points to fruition there. It's an interesting perspective from a guy who's been around the game, and he's been in a lot of big moments in the NBA in terms of an owner. I mean, Mark Cuban has seen it all in terms of his time in the NBA there. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Mark Cuban, are going to oppose what he says, and that's fine. But I think his bigger point here is that pro-tanking is something that fans should kind of conjoin with to get their, to have a better shot to get to supremacy there. So it's certainly an interesting talking point to start the show. And I know, starting the show with Mark Cuban is a bit interesting here, but I think he had a lot of interesting things to say to the point of tanking there. Kind of switching gears here, guys. Who do you believe is the biggest threat to Oklahoma City in the Western Conference this year? This is the second kind of point I wanted to get to. Obviously, Oklahoma City was so dominant a year ago. world champs, had one of the best seasons in recent memory. Looking at the second half of the season and the biggest threat to the Thunder in the postseason, this is a team I've talked about a lot in the Western Conference. I think the Houston Rockets are there, but I think it really deepens to the health of the Denver Nuggets. If the Nuggets can get healthy, I believe that this is a team who could push the Thunder to the brink. They did push them there last year. They did get them to 7 games in the Western semis last year. They have a much better roster this year in terms of talent in Denver Nuggets. And I think that they have a good opportunity to make a push towards to winning the West if they can get through Oklahoma City, guys. Denver is a team to watch out for. I know the San Antonio Spurs have been very, very good, especially against the Thunder. They're 4-1 versus OKC this year, guys, including 3 wins in 12 days in December. But the Spurs are still so young and lack that playoff experience. That's the one worry with them. Now, when you have a guy like Victor Wembanyama, you can never be counted out. They certainly are going to be in the picture in the end of the day in the Western Conference, but I think the Denver Nuggets are the team to watch out for and are the biggest threat to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the Western Conference the rest of the way. It should be fun to watch that play out, guys. Jumping into the underdog segment today, guys, we're almost back to NBA action here. I have another pick for you guys. Fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back. Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action, guys. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your players will go higher or lower on stats. Like rebounds, points, steals, and assists there. Get your picks right, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. This week on Underdog, I am looking at another game on Thursday's slate. We've been kind of previewing games on that first day back. It's a loaded slate. When the action gets back underway, I'm going to look at this Suns-Spurs matchup, guys. I'm going to select Victor Wembanyama higher than 23.5 points, and I'm going to go Mark Williams higher than 11.5 points. Wemby is just a guy that they're going to get involved. I think he has a good shot to have a big game. Speaking of Wemby, we've been talking a lot about him in today's show, obviously. This is a guy who I think shows up for big matchups, and he will be ready to go in this one. Mark Williams is more of a value play here, guys. This is a player whose market constantly is set kind of lower like this when it comes to points. I think he has a good opportunity, to go higher on this mark as well. Use promo code BasketballFan, guys, to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Look at those couple picks on Underdog Fantasy to get some winners, guys. A lot of great NBA action ahead of us here.
Must be 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms DFSTML for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 helpline at 1-878 or text HOMI 467-369.
Alrighty, guys, jumping back into the final couple segments of today. Eastern Conference and a dark horse to watch out for the rest of the way in the East, guys. There's a few teams you could look at in terms of the Eastern Conference and teams that could really make a push here. What team can truly be the dark horse in the East? It's hard to say Cleveland as a dark horse, particularly given the odds put them firmly at the top of the standings. Cleveland's been a team that they've been a group to watch out for the entire year. They started off slow, but now they've kind of found their footing, are playing really good basketball, and now adding James Harden, that's really a team that's going to be dangerous in the Eastern Conference, guys. I think the Cavs are a team to watch out for. I don't necessarily consider them a dark horse, so to speak, though, because they're so talented and they've always been touted to kind of, be atop the Eastern Conference this year. Instead, I'm going to go Boston. I think, Boston is the wild card here, even bigger than the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, I know the Sixers are playing really, really good basketball. We're playing good ball leading up to the break. Joel Embiid looks like he is back to true form, putting up the numbers that we saw the last couple of years finally. So Philly is a team to watch out for, but keep an eye on the Boston Celtics, guys. Boston is second in the Eastern Conference currently, and that's been without Jason Tatum the entirety of the year. He's recovering from that Achilles tear, obviously. He's ramping up his activity to get back. Jason Tatum's going to be a guy who if they get him back, it'll be interesting to see how he jumps right back into high intensity action right away. I think, though, Boston going through 2 playoff rounds isn't out of the question. I think that they can get through those first couple rounds, especially if Jason Tatum comes back and looks somewhat true to form there. They have Jaylen Brown. They've got, they made the trade for Vooch, guys. This is a team that I think can make a lot of noise in the Eastern Conference and would really not be someone that these teams want to play down the stretch run. They're dangerous, and they have that playoff experience there and that playoff backbone. So we'll see. Cleveland, I like a lot. I think the Knicks have a chance to make a push as well, guys. So keep an eye on Philly, New York, Boston. Those are the teams to look out for. Detroit, obviously, leading the way in the Eastern Conference. I'm not sure if they have, they're a young team, much like San Antonio, but we'll see. The dark horse in the East, watch out for the Boston Celtics, guys. Wrapping up today's show, I wanted to, what's the biggest storyline as it pertains to even the Chicago Bulls here, guys, the rest of the season? The biggest storyline the rest of the way, it has to be, looking through the lens of the Chicago Bulls, the tank race with the playoff participants generally kind of set. I mean, we have a good idea. The play-in seeds are still kind of going to be fluctuating, but we have a general sense of who the playoff teams are going to be. That's why that race to the bottom, guys, is going to be an interesting one, especially the fact that tanking is kind of under scrutiny by the league right now, and it's something that's being looked at and kind of talked about a ton in the general media in terms of the NBA right now, guys. It was a big topic around All-Star Weekend and with Adam Silver. So it's hard to not want to embrace the tank race when you got a group of guys at the top of that draft board coming up, guys. Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonsta, Cam Boozer, and Caleb Wilson. They're all going to be waiting in the wings come draft night. All those guys are, their college teams should be making noise in March. That'll certainly be fun to watch ahead of the draft there. We're going to get to see them ball out in March there, in March Madness. That's the NCAA tournament is a great time to watch these stars kind of blossom in these moments, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun doing so ahead of the draft here. As far as, the rest of the year goes, that tank race, there's a lot of value to be had in those players. So I think it's going to be interesting as it heats up, who kind of comes out on top in that sense there. As far as the matchups the rest of the way, guys, there were 3 key matchups the rest of the year that I'm kind of keying in on. The Cavs visiting the Pistons February 27th. We talked a lot about Cleveland today in terms of an Eastern Conference team to watch out for. That's a heck of a matchup at the end of this month here, guys. Cavs visiting Detroit. That's going to be a big one there. The Celtics going to New York will play the Knicks in the final couple days of the season, April 9th. That could have a lot of ramifications in terms of the Eastern Conference playoff picture there. And then Oklahoma City visiting none other than the Denver Nuggets on April 10th. This was a matchup in the semis last year in the West that came down to the wire, guys, and I think if Denver can get healthy, I truly believe that they could push OKC in the Western Conference. And we see that matchup April 10th, again, towards the very tail end of the season there. Those are 3 matchups I'm kind of locking into the rest of the regular season. Now, for the Chicago Bulls, this 7-game homestand coming up, very, very tough. This is a tough stretch of basketball for them. Again, if you're really going to hone in on as a fan here for the Chicago Bulls, that tank race, can the Bulls, they may be a little too far behind to catch some of these teams down there at the bottom of the standings, guys. And the Bulls have kind of put themselves in that tough position, waiting as long as they did to kind of wrap things up and choose that direction ahead of the trade deadline. Now, we knew they were going to offload pieces. We just didn't know it would take them this long to get that ball rolling. So it may be too little too late for the Bulls to jump into one of those top 3 seeds, in the draft, or top 3 picks in the draft, I should say. We shall see, though. A lot of basketball to be played. A lot of things could happen. That's going to wrap up today's show, guys. I want to thank, again, Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. I want to thank you guys for your constant support of the show. Scan that QR code to get in on all the NBA action ahead of Thursday's big NBA slate. And the rest of the season has a lot to offer in terms of Underdog Fantasy and the markets that they have with the NBA, guys. Once again, thank you for joining me again today. We will see you guys next time.